I know it was before you became Cal Ripken Jr., the Hall of Famer, but what on earth does a bat boy on deck have to say to you as you're walking up to the plate while you're struggling?
Well, I mean, one thing I remember is you seem to always take the first pitch down the middle and then swing at the next pitch in the dirt. He goes, "Why don't you swing at the first pitch?"
Fly ball onto the track, at the wall, it's gone! Home run!
Turns on a ball, deep right field, and gone!
What a game, what a moment.
All right, I am pumped today to be joined on the show once again by the Hall of Famer for the Baltimore Orioles, Cal Ripken Jr. Cal, how are we doing, my friend? Thanks for hopping back on.
Yeah, I'm doing really well. It seems like there's a surge in my request here lately since I'm part of the Orioles ownership group, but the Orioles have been doing fantastic. I really enjoyed, connecting, from the inside out again.
I'm proud to be on the list of asks before that happened, and now we'll do it again after. But I got to ask, last time I saw you, we had you on Flipping Bats last year. Then I saw you at the All-Star game. You got to present Elias Diaz with the All-Star game award there in Seattle. How cool was that? How special was it for you to be able to do that?
It was really special. I think it's Elias Diaz, and the reason I say that is I was asking before I went on, how do you pronounce his first name?
Yeah.
I was saying Elias, and there's all kinds of different versions, but when it got to the moment of truth, when I said, and the MVP award goes to, and I was practicing Elias Diaz, I went, Elias Diaz. So he looked at me for a minute. We kind of laughed, but it was a great memory that I hit a home run in my last All-Star game and then was voted the MVP. And it kind of took me back, I guess 20-some years to that point. And I felt really honored to represent baseball in that moment.
Yeah, it's really cool. And now this year, obviously, big things happening for you. You're part of the new Orioles ownership group, as you mentioned, alongside David Rubenstein and others. It seems fans have taken well to him. Obviously, he's been a great face for the organization at this point. You obviously have a long-standing relationship with the Orioles and their fans. How would you say this new chapter, what would you say this new chapter has shown you about Baltimore that maybe you didn't know before?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it surprised me how I reacted to it. I thought, well, I've had some things going. Your life is just going to continue in the same sort of fashion it has. But it's had a dramatic influence on me, is that I want to go to the ballpark. I want to see what happens pitch to pitch. I want to see how Gunnar did last night. I want to, if I ever get a chance to see him or I'm away, first thing I do is look at the box score again. So it's got me recharged. And it does feel good to go to the ballpark. There was nothing really bad, with the previous ownership group for me. Mr. Angelos was always kind to me, but it felt like I was an outsider coming back to the ballpark. Now it feels like I'm an insider. We kind of move around. Everybody's really happy and excited. David Rubenstein and Michael Arrighetti, the two main money guys in the deal, they see it really as them being a steward of the Oriole franchise, the great Oriole franchise, and I think that's a great perspective. David's enjoying going out, handling the hose out in left center field. He's been giving out hats. He's been at the game. I think he's enjoyed being able to do something and come back to Baltimore in this fashion.
Are we going to see you out there at any point, Cal? When are you getting out in the bird bath? Come on.
I think they've been positioning me for a while. They kind of got that. And I was thinking, well, early this season, it's kind of cold. So I don't think that appeals. But I imagine, if the right opportunity, the right date comes along, you'll probably see me out there.
Yes, I love that. You mentioned
like controlling the hose way more than being squirted.
You mentioned Gunnar and hitting that grand slam. He actually hit the grand slam the night that he came on the show, and then the day it was released, he hit a grand slam that night. So the luck for players that come on the show that night is honestly unprecedented. So I don't know what good luck we can possibly bring you, but just know
I'm batting tonight. I'm not playing in the field.
Maybe you should.
It's interesting though. I'm sure you play that up when you try to get people on, right? Last time you were on, you hit a grand slam because, as you know, being on the inside, those superstitions matter, and it's almost like that. I never was superstitious by doing things, jumping over the line or doing stuff on the field. But if I went to a certain restaurant and I had a 4-hit game or something like that, you better believe the next day the routine was going to be I was going to try to copy that routine, including going to the same restaurant and eating the same food before I went to the ballpark. I try to get that.
Yeah, you're not at all superstitious. You'll just eat the same things and do the same things if things are going well.
When you're hot, you got to ride it out.
Exactly. It's not a superstition. It's just a way of life.
Don't try to figure it out. Just ride it out.
Wait, you mentioned Gunnar. He's been unbelievable. He's in the AL MVP conversation. I know it's early, but he's in the same breath as Aaron Judge and Juan Soto at this point in the American League. You were the shortstop there in Baltimore for a long, long time. How good is Gunnar Henderson? What do you think the ceiling for that kid is? He's just unbelievable.
It feels like, I mean, I know this for a fact, is that he's gaining experience, he's learning, he's gaining his confidence in all situations. And for me personally, to sit there and watch him play shortstop, you can almost see the wheels turning in his head when he's faced with a certain play. Like, maybe I could have done this a different way. Mm-hmm. And so he's a thinker as a shortstop. I mean, he's physically gifted, got a cannon for an arm. Some of the plays he's made from the outfield grass and the dart he throws across the diamond, I sit out there and I'm thinking, that was against a fast runner. He had no time to actually make that play. But to me, processing the game and getting comfortable in one position, because when he came into the system, he was flip-flopping between third and short. And I asked him one time, I said, does that bother you going back and forth? He goes, no, that's all I've ever known. But my personal feeling is when you get a chance to settle into one position, you get to hit the situational baseball part of it over and over and over again, and you start to figure out things, just little things that you learn. So I've loved watching him progress as a shortstop, and he's got all the skills. He's got great range, makes all the plays. He understands who's running at home plate. He understands who's on the bases. Those things are obvious to me.
When I had him on recently, one guy we talked about was Jackson Holliday. And there are similarities between the two. When Gunnar started last season, it was a tough time for him. So Gunnar and I really dove into his evolution as a hitter and how he was able to work his way through it, and how the Orioles organization helped him be able to work through it by being in the big leagues and letting him struggle up there. And I asked him about Jackson Holliday and the same sort of thing. So I'm interested from your perspective. We saw him come up. He's a superstar prospect. He's going to be good in the big leagues. Anybody that thinks otherwise after a short little stretch, I think is wrong. So I want to ask you, what did you see from Jackson Holliday when he came up? And have you spoken to him since he's been sent back down?
No, he called me when he got called up because of the whole issue about wearing my dad's number.
Yeah.
Came up, and I thought that was a tremendous honor that was bestowed upon my dad kind of internally in the clubhouse. It really wasn't an official retired number. It was just they preserved that number all these years. But I told Jackson, I said, the number's yours. There's no denying the talent that he has, and he's gonna be right. The difficult part, and Gunnar explained it pretty well, is that he was happy that he was able to work through that.
Yeah. And
sometimes that's the hardest thing that you try to make a decision on. And I think the decision was right, probably to get him back down there, to get his confidence, back down, because he is 20. I think he was 20, right?
Yeah.
Really, really young. Because you watch him play, you forget how young he is.
20. He looks 16, but 20.
Exactly. And when he's on the field, he plays like a mature player. But I think some of the emotions, the excitement, he never struck out that many times. He struck out in half of his at-bats, and he was chasing the high fastball. Mm-hmm. He can catch up with anybody's fastball. So don't think that, you can just throw fastballs down. But I think the engine was running a little high. And I think within the organization, the consensus was maybe we got all excited and we made an aggressive move to bring him up. Maybe that was unfair to Jackson. I came up to the big leagues right before my 21st birthday. Got called up in '81. Didn't play very much. Had like 39 at bats or something like that. Didn't get very many hits. Went down to winter ball again to reestablish how I felt about me as a hitter.
Yeah.
Then I did so well in winter ball that they traded Doug DeSensei away and made room for me at third base. So I had a full season at AAA, 2 full seasons in Puerto Rico facing a higher level talent. And it was just to get myself back on the way I played. But I was 3 for 5 opening day, and then I was 4 for my next 63. So I was 7 for 68. So when you're coming down the on-deck circle and you're looking up your batting average on the big board, you're wishing, hey, take that off really quickly to get up there. And everybody was telling me how to hit, including the bat boy on the side. Why? So I was sitting there feeling for Jackson. And in one game when he got his first hit, I was sitting with his dad, Matt, and we were kind of talking about some of the excitement of and in some ways I wish that maybe we could have pushed through and let him find his way at the big league level. But the fact that he was chasing pitches and striking out at that sort of rate, I think it was probably better. We'll see him again really soon. The future is him. And when I looked out that lineup, it looked pretty good when you saw Westberg, Gunnar, Jackson, and then Mountcastle. If you look at those four, you go, okay, wow, those guys are going to be solid for all this time. So you can't help but get excited about the talent that's been brought into the system. But Jackson's a superstar, and he's going to show it.
I know it was before you became Cal Ripken Jr., the Hall of Famer, but what on earth does a bat boy on deck have to say to you as you're walking up to the plate while you're struggling?
Well, I mean, one thing I remember is you seem to always take the first pitch down the middle and then swing at the next pitch in the dirt. He goes, why don't you swing at the first pitch? And so everybody had great intentions and they wanted to help you. Of course, pitching coaches, I think when you recognize that there's a certain talent there and you got potential, everybody naturally, some people want to help you to say that they were the one that got you out of the slump. But other people just want to help you and get you over that hump, because everybody feels it when they first come to the big leagues. It's amazing to me now, I think, the maturity of the players that come to the big leagues. It's almost like they have this confidence because I played in pressure situations and showcase camp. It doesn't affect me as much. I mean, to me, coming from the minor leagues to the big leagues, it was like all of a sudden you had to deal with all the media, all these giant stadiums, the lights coming down on you, everybody watching you. You could get yourself all worked up. And it's not until you feel it's the same game. It's the same batter's box. It's 60 feet away. They threw hard down in AAA too. Once you realize that this is just a little bit better than where you were before, then you can settle in. But, I think Jackson's getting himself right. But Gunnar's example is a really good example because we all felt for him, but we knew how good he's going to be. And, yes, he should be considered in the MVP. He's got 18 bombs already. He's been clutch. He's improved hitting against lefties, tough lefties. The more you see, the more he makes those adjustments. And in the field, he's a huge asset to be right in the middle of the infield like that.
With the Orioles team as a whole, Cal, last year they were the best team in the American League, went to the playoffs with a really young team, no playoff experience, and it didn't go great. Obviously, they ran into the eventual World Series champions. But from your perspective, getting to play in the postseason, how helpful can last year's postseason experience be when they inevitably, in my opinion, get there this year, or whenever they get there? How much experience will that have helped them last year moving forward, or does it at all? Is it just a reset and let's do it all again?
No, I think it helps a lot because there's one thing you can't give another player is what it feels like to try to turn a double play in Yankee Stadium with the game on the line. You got to experience those moments, and then once you know that you can execute in those moments at the same level, then you gain confidence. And the playoffs are the same thing. I was really, really young when we won the World Series. I guess I was 23 that summer, 83, and then turned 24 right at the end of that summer. And my first experiences was the playoffs, and you feel like you have this shot of adrenaline, and you feel like you're Superman, and all of a sudden you realize, I got to calm this down. And I had the experience of being in All-Star games, which is a similar feeling at first when you make your first All-Star game, and you're standing around with all the players that you looked up to and watched. Your excitement level starts kind of gets up. And I always had to calm that down a little bit, say, okay, nothing good happens when I'm too amped. I got to get back down. It's just the same game. And once you get to that point, but you have to experience it. And I don't think that the Orioles were nervous per se last year. I think I would rather look at the example of they had 5 or 6 days off. They won. They earned the right, to buy. And in a baseball sense, especially in hitting, 4 or 5 days off, Now, somebody would say, "What do you know about that, Cal? You didn't have 4 or 5 days off." But there were times when the Tiles from Seattle fell down. They canceled a few games in a row. A couple of labor issues in the middle of the season. You stretched out. It was almost like you're swinging really well, then you step back in the box 5 days later, and you go, "Where was I?"
Yep.
And that timing is so critical for you to get that back. It's so refined that sometimes you just can't get it going in that series. And I think Texas rolled right into the playoffs. They got hot. They kept their hot bats going. And when they rolled into the Orioles, we didn't have enough time to almost get ourselves right, and the series was over. So I would say that was more of an explanation of last year. Great team, pressure down the stretch. That all helps. But that experience last year, I think, will help if they make the playoffs this year. And the only thing you can say every year is, are you a playoff caliber team? And the Orioles are.
Yeah.
So assuming they're in the same position they were last year, they'll benefit by knowing what it feels like to be in those situations.
It's the same thing we've seen a couple of years in a row now with the Atlanta Braves, that off time. And I remember back when I was playing, I used to remember if there was one day off and I was going well at the plate, a day off, that next day, it still was a bit of an adjustment getting back in the box. You're trying to adjust to 95 miles an hour with your eyes. So I could honestly tell a difference from one day off at the plate. Sure. So 5 days for a major league hitter is a massive deal. And I really don't think we've talked about that enough.
Well, what's interesting is that's the one metrics, when you have all the analytics that's going on right now, it's almost like you go by the stats and you say, okay, but the thing that you need to take into consideration, when you're hot, it doesn't matter who's on the mound. You got to get it rolling again. The interesting part, I can take what you said to a little bit deeper level. I played 5 years in a row without missing an inning. Okay, so there was like 900 games, and I was young and kept going out. But my thought process was, when you're swinging the bat well, you want that last at bat, right? You want to stay in the game for the last at bat. If you're not, you can use that last at bat to maybe make an adjustment that will help you tomorrow. Yeah. And so I never thought that there was any value in taking a couple of games off. I mean, how much rest are you going to get? Where's the mental rest that you get from that? So I was going to play the next game anyway. And there was value in a blowout game if you're losing, or a blowout game when you're winning, and how you're swinging the bat. So you wanted to keep that timing as best you could. And I thought by the only way to do that is stand in the box. It's not, you can't do that in the cage.
Yeah, absolutely. The shortstop position in the big leagues, where your spot, you were a shortstop for a long, long time. The shortstop position right now, Cal, is unbelievable. You got guys like Gunnar, Bobby Witt Jr., the Seagers, Turners, Ellies of the world, specifically Mookie moving from right field to second base to shortstop. Let me ask you about him. You played that position. How impressive is it? How crazy is it to have a guy like Mookie Betts, an MVP in the league for playing the outfield, to move to shortstop at the highest level in baseball?
It blows me away that people can do that. I mean, my brother Billy could play all 4 infield positions and wouldn't think twice about it. He could play first, second, third, and short. In my day, Tony Phillips and Jerry Brown, Governor Jerry Brown, they started to become like the flexible guys. They could play center field. They could play all the infield positions. And that gave flexibility to your lineups on a daily basis. I think the analytics today lends itself to that flexibility. But my true belief is you could be a jack of all trades, but rarely would you be a master of one. And so I want all 4 of my infielders executing at the highest level they possibly can. But when you look at a super talent like Mookie, it amazes me that he can step in. Yeah. Because my dad told me I played third at first. I got to develop through the minor leagues as a third baseman. Played the first part of my career at third. Then I got moved to short really quickly. And that temporary move, I think at the time to bolster the offense, lasted 15 straight years. So then when I went back to third, I think it was 1997, it felt strange to me. It was almost like I knew all the responsibilities of shortstop, and it's the same side of the infield, but your reactions are different. It might be a step and a dive. Yeah. There's certain things that you did differently. But my dad told me, he said, it'll probably take you about 100 games before you start feeling like a third baseman again. And damn it if it wasn't true, like late in the season, I started thinking, for example, the hitter hits a fly ball, goes up in the infield. As a shortstop, my responsibility was behind me, generally speaking. So I would break back and I kind of look at it. The third baseman, first baseman, catcher, third baseman calls off the catcher, first baseman calls off the catcher. But all of a sudden at third base, I kind of break back and I think, oh no, that's my job. And now I got to run in and call off, the second baseman on the pitcher. The catcher or the pitcher. So just those little things had to be reprogrammed. But it amazes me that people can interchange. Tony Phillips was amazing to me. Jerry Brown brought a lot to the table, and I think that probably was Tony La Russa's kind of mastermind to kind of take advantage of the lineups that he had.
Not many people have done it in an All-Star game. You moved over from third to short in an All-Star game. That was.
I was really upset about that. I had this glove in my hand that Rawlings made a little bit bigger for me, and Jeff Conine nicknamed it Humongous because he put it down like this because I felt like you needed, when the hard hit balls, you need something to throw your glove out and have it catch it. And then I was thinking, I got this big glove, and I didn't know it was going to happen. And I was thinking, I haven't played shortstop in 6 years. Now I'm going to go over there in the All-Star game and embarrass myself. But once I got over there, my first thought was, I don't want any balls hit to me.
Yeah.
And then I yelled out to Clemens, like, go, hey, you need to strike out the side or something like that. And then he kind of laughed. And then by the second hitter, I was thinking, okay, I'm seeing the pitches. I'm kind of anticipating again. By the third hitter, I think it was Barry Bonds, I'm thinking, I want him to hit the ball to me. Come on. So I was moving. He grounded out to second base. No plays, but there's a little anxiety, and there's a balance mentally in between your defense and your offense. If you're thinking too much about your defense and worried, it's going to affect your offense and vice versa.
Cal, I'm interested now in your current position, which is part of the ownership group with the Orioles. Mm-hmm. I'm interested. I'm sure fans are interested, and I'm sure maybe even you were interested before you got in this role. I think Mike Elias is brilliant. General manager of the team. He's done it with the Astros. He's doing it with the Orioles. He's building a juggernaut of an organization. You're now part of the ownership group with a brilliant baseball mind. You've been there. You've done it on the field. How are you? Do you talk to him? Does he ask you advice? Does he ask you about moves? Does he ask you about contracts? Just in general, like what's that process like, and how involved are you?
Well, I agree with you 100%. Elias has done everything he was hired to do and more.
Yeah.
And the baseball piece doesn't need to be fixed. You don't need them to go in there and tinker with and all that kind of stuff. Yep. So, that I don't want that job anyway. But Mike does a really good job. He's developed a good team. He's developed a good culture. I want to be able to assist in any way I can. I've always had a great rapport with him. He called me when he first got the job. We had lunch. 5 years or six years ago now, I think. And we talked about it. We just talked about baseball things. And so periodically over the years, we'd sit down, he'd come sit next to me down and watch the game, and we'd have conversations. So our relationship hasn't changed much. I'm available to be a sounding board. Yeah. Now that I'm watching the game way closer, I have, better opinions, stronger opinions. I can be more of a resource, but, being part of the ownership group, doesn't mean I'm coming in and handling all the baseball piece or whatever else. And I'm thankful that I'm not needed in that regard. And I'm respectful of what Mike Elias has built. And so to me, I'm just kind of slowly kind of moving in and kind of, gaining the trust and confidence of different people so I can be a resource if need be.
I know you're not the one forking over all the money or making the decisions, but I told Gunnar the other day on the show, we got to make that man an Oriole for life. And if that doesn't happen, the whole Orioles organization should be disappointed they let that man go. He is unbelievable, and I hope he gets it. I hope he gets that deal, Cal.
Well, it's interesting is that I don't know if it exists so much anymore. Is that and I don't know whether it's the agent's responsibility is to get the best possible deal, but I don't know whether there was always other considerations for me. Mm-hmm. And there was a value I placed on playing in my hometown, even through rebuilding processes. You're thinking about it. We're not going to be good for a while. It's going to be painful, but I'm young enough to get to the other side. Mm-hmm. I valued having stability in my life. I'm from in and around Baltimore. It was valuable to me. So to me, it wasn't the bottom line dollars. Let me break the bank. Let me be the highest paid player. Mm-hmm. There was always pressure from the Players Association and also pressure on your agents to get you the best deal.
Yeah.
But there should be a value proposition to Gunnar that says, And I'm not a person that looks at legacy per se. I think legacy happens. Your brand happens by your collection of play and your decisions. But it would be good, to try to figure out what is the right value proposition.
Yep.
How do you keep a lot of players, and where do you want to play? The one time where they fired my dad, I was a free agent at the end of the year. I thought I wasn't going to be in Oregon. I thought, and there was trade rumors all over the place. I was going to get traded to Atlanta, to the Yankees, to Boston, and I kept thinking, where would I want to play? If I had to make that choice, and you want to go to a good team at the time and all that kind of stuff. But when it boiled down to it, it was important to me to stay at home, to be in Baltimore, and that was leading any of the negotiations. Even after they fired my dad, I was able to look at it and say, what is best for me? And so when players make those decisions, and maybe Gunnar will have to sit down and think what's important to him.
Yeah. Cal, this is always a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Two big takeaways from me from talking to you today. One, I can't wait to see you out in the bird bath. Two, there is an on-deck boy that is old somewhere now claiming that he is the reason that you are a Hall of Famer, and I appreciate that out of him.
For sure. I started swinging at the first pitch, and then the rest is history.
The rest is history. Cal, I appreciate it, my friend. Always a lot of fun.
Okay. Thank you, man.
Yeah. All right, just wanted to thank Cal Ripken Jr. again for joining me here on Flippin' Bats. Second time joining, always a lot of fun. And really cool this year to be able to talk to him about that new ownership group and the Orioles team as a whole. That was a really fun conversation, just picking his mind about what it's like being an owner. It's not often you get to pick the brain of somebody that's just gotten into that role and see how involved or how not involved they really are. And it seems he is really involved and really knowledgeable on what's happening, especially with Gunnar, Jackson Holliday, all of that. So I had a lot of fun talking to him. I hope you all enjoyed listening as much as I did. Make sure you're subscribed, following wherever you listen to your podcast. That really helps. Hit that button. You can also watch every single thing we do. You can watch on Spotify. You can watch on our YouTube channel, Flippin' Bats Pod there. And you can follow us on all social media at Flippin' Bats Pod everywhere. So thank you all for listening. Until next time, my friends, remember, find your bat and flip it. Peace.